Flight 1066. Yeah.
Good morning. It's Monday, and I feel good because I feel like I'm on the rebound. I'm recovering from 3 days of just long travel and also no sleep, and so I've got to put one more together. I am super branded today because I'm drinking coffee out of my Invader mug here in my Invader hat, and this is a late coffee. I actually went for a run this morning, which was really good, and had lunch and just kind of been chilling, facilitating a couple of small things for Richard and Kate, who are meeting right now to go over spreadsheets. Surprise, surprise. But I am sitting here having a coffee. Delicious. I'm definitely feeling a little bit down today. There are a couple things I was going to talk about. The Patreon shirt was just because it was lying out and it's a really comfortable shirt, but it is one of the things I want to talk about today. I also want to talk about the game, the status of the game, what I'm thinking about it, where it's going, and I'll start with a little bit of a reminder of what the game is. Thankfully, I have some helpful visuals here, including the sticker that's not really available anywhere yet, but I could make available very soon, of Notre Dame that my sister drew, which is lovely and much larger than the rest of them. I'll show you as I get this out. Part of the down feeling is largely because, oh, wrong one. I still have the keys from the Airbnb in Bucharest. That's not a real, I do feel bad about that, but I asked them how I could send it back to them, and they were just like, you got our 5-star review, don't worry about it, basically, and I'd rather send that back to them. It seems like the secure thing to do. I think it's a little bit of the travel funk. I think it's a little bit of the sleep deprivation. I think it's just the result of feeling a little bit burned out. And I don't know, I've been thinking a lot lately in terms of, am I doing anything worthwhile with my life? Which I'm not trolling for compliments or reassurances here. I think it's just a genuine sentiment that I run into every once in a while, especially when I'm on a bit of a downward trend emotionally, that I look to people that I imagine as my peers who probably really aren't, or I look to people that I admire that are much farther along in their journey than I am, and I wonder, am I even going to ever be worthy of participating in these conversations? Yeah, that's kind of resting on me a little bit. Thankfully, I'm very mindful and very aware of where these thoughts are coming from, I feel like, and why I'm feeling the way I'm feeling, and that's all that they are. But it's just something you gotta kind of dwell on for the day. That's neither here nor there. That's just kind of where I'm at right now. I'm sure that I'll be back up and running at 100% tomorrow. Well, not 100%. Maybe I don't know if I'll ever get back to 100%. But maybe we can talk a little bit more about that at the end of all this. What I wanted to talk about now was the game. And one of the key elements of the game, as I've already shown you, are the stickers, which now you can see how much bigger this guy is to his compatriots. In reality, Notre Dame is not that much bigger than the Eiffel Tower. In fact, it's significantly smaller. But these stickers are collectible when you come to Paris if you play the game. And the idea is that as you collect them, these ones you would purchase to collect. They, I think, are €2 each from the variety of waypoints along the way. Each one has 2 different stickers, so you've got to bounce between a few of them to collect all 9 of the ones that are currently available. And then what you get for free are these Frank stickers, and the Frank stickers are kind of like your proof of purchase. You went to the place, you had a good time, they gave you these stickers, and when you collect enough of these, they're worth points that you can then translate into postcards. Now, if you don't want to buy all of the postcards that you see around Paris, you can always, let's see if I can arrange this in an attractive fashion, you can always take some of my photography home with you. These are the 3 that I have printed. I have a few more that I was thinking about printing, but not very many people are going all the way through with the postcards. A lot of people are just collecting and keeping the stickers, which is understandable. If you like the stickers, that's great. But there are a whole bunch of these postcards up for grabs, and I will always find another use for them, don't worry. But if you want them, when you come to Paris, it's a pretty unique souvenir in the sense that the only way to get these is by playing the game. You can't even buy these. I won't sell them to you. You gotta play the game. The concept is that there are like 15 or 16 businesses that are all participating, and they're all places that I really like. Most of them are bars, cafes, and restaurants. So if you want to go get good coffee, good food, a really nice place to drink with friendly service, nice people, and just generally gonna have a good time. Like I put it in the 90th percentile because there's always a chance you have a bad time at any place. But the odds are very high that you're gonna have a great time at one of these locations. If you go to a bunch of them, they're in different parts of the city. You can try them as you're exploring other areas of the city. And then you get rewards basically for going to really fun places anyways. Most of them are offering one kind of bonus or another. If you just let them know you're playing the game, they often will give you something extra for free. And on the website, I think I put at least one of these together. I hope that I had a couple others I was going to put together, and I need to finish those. I I need to look and see if they are finished. But basically little suggested routes of how you could spend your time exploring the city in an efficient manner that also helps you get close to some of these locations. It's all pretty cool. It's not bad. If you can tell, I'm a little bit deflated on it right now. Not because the response has been bad or anything. In fact, the response has actually been overwhelmingly positive. Everybody's had a really good time, even if they went to a place where whatever staff member forgot or didn't realize they were playing the game and so they didn't get their stickers. The locations are all great. The experiences have all been good. I've gotten nothing but positive feedback, even when it's been that kind of feedback like, well, it kind of broke down on me here, but I really enjoyed myself. So that experience is good. The business owners all seem to be really happy with it. All in all, it should be just kind of like, it's a small but effective success. I want to say resounding success, but I don't know if it's actually resounding. But part of the reason that I'm losing some of my gusto is that for me, like, it's an analog idea. It's an analog translation of something that I wanted to do digitally that I just can't do right now. And that I can't fully complete because I can't afford to. And so I thought that going into this tourist season, we would have a moment to, ask you what you thought about it. Like, give you an opportunity to go to these great places, to have a good experience, and just kind of track that and see how it went and hear back from you. I need to reach out to everybody who did the beta for the spring, at least. I think we can call the spring over here soon, and ask how your time went and if you played the game and how your experience was. And the idea is to continue to ask the people that did the beta that as we go. Did you actually play the game? What was your experience like? Where did it break down? Those kinds of questions. But for me, I think that the struggle is that my ambitions and my dreams kind of outstrip my resources in this instance. And it's been interesting. I've been listening to a couple of podcasters talk about this and their differing business models and the struggle in trying to bring your ambitions to the fore and trying to explain that even though this content, like the YouTube videos that I make, for example, are free and you can always enjoy them for free, and I want you to enjoy, I don't want there to be any barrier to enjoying the things that I make. I would like everyone to make them. How then do you turn around and fund bigger projects and grow into larger ambitions than you currently are able to, especially when you're not really charging for your content? That's where something like Patreon plays a role. Anybody who feels like they get value out of the videos that I make and would get value out of the projects that I'm doing in the future can and is encouraged to support the channel, to support my vlog and to support these bigger projects. That's definitely a big part of it. At the same time, if it's a financial strain, I don't want anybody to feel obligated to. I don't want anybody who can't afford to for one reason or another to feel like they're under some obligation to support the channel. Obviously, you need to take care of yourself first, but if you get value out of this and you think of it in terms of like, I get a lot of value out of a cup of coffee, where'd my coffee go? I get a lot of value out of this cup of coffee, I'm willing to pay for it. I also get a lot of value out of Jay's vlog. I'd be willing to pay for that too. That's kind of a way of thinking about it, but I feel like we're making this up as we go. It's a whole new way of looking at it that I'm not entirely prepared to dive into today, because I feel like I'm even rethinking a lot of how I'm going to be approaching what I'm creating, how I approach something like Patreon, how I approach trying to grow. Like, if I'm going to pay Richard and Kate to work for me, I have to be able to afford that. And at this point, I'm, paying them very small amounts to do some basic work and to get ready. But the hope is that by 2020, we're ready to really start working, like, especially with Richard, full time on these bigger projects and bigger strategies. And that's one of the main reasons that I want to make sure I'm talking about it here and letting you know what I'm thinking. And even if I can't get into some of the details yet, I can at least let you know what my vision is and try to bring you on board for that. And the game is one of those things where I can't really get into the details about it because the things that I want to do with it down the line are things that need to be kept secret until launch. You know what I mean? Like, there's certain elements of it that I think are really fun and really cool, but things that I can't publicly talk about, basically because I don't want somebody to abscond with the idea and rip it off. I have a lot of strengths that lend themselves towards the success of a project like what I have in mind, but I don't have the time or the resources to put into it myself as it is. And so that also then removes some of my excitement for it. Like, I genuinely really like the idea of being able to introduce you to some of the coolest places here in Paris that just have great people hanging out and working, where you're going to have a good experience. There's no downside to that in my mind. There's no downside to making it fun and having the riddles, which I totally forgot to mention the riddles, but you have like the riddle sheet. You can solve riddles when you're going around Paris, get more points and exchange those for more postcards. There's a lot of really cool stuff out there that I really really, really would like to do, but I'm in this kind of phase where I recognize part of it's that I'm very tired, and I'm just in need of a break and some reformatting in my life in general. Also recognizing that, so there's so many things, I think this is a problem that most people can identify with. I think most of us have really big dreams that we just can't quite get to because we don't have access to the resources we need. And for me, I think that has me down a little bit right now because I see so clearly some of the arenas that I would love to jump into that I just can't yet. And I want to, and I'm going to make some strides. I have some ideas and plans and thoughts for how to grow it, for how to get to a place where I have enough resources to start at least moving in those directions, but also, trying to stop and recognize my limitations and accept those to the degree that I can just be a healthy and relatively happy version of myself here and now, and not overpressure myself, not overwork myself, and not hold myself to unattainable standards because I don't have control over a lot of the elements involved. So all that to say, I'm gonna try over the next week or two to do one more remap of all of the waypoints in the game. I want to go visit all of them, show them all to you. I'm going to go enjoy their coffee and their food and their drinks. And I want to try and weave that into everything so that you get just one more refresher. I'm sure that you've forgotten half of the places, and try to just give it that one last push. And if it's something that interests you, I would love to hear about it. If it's something that you are enjoying, I know that a lot of people really enjoyed going down and seeing how to tap a keg at Bon Esprit, or checking in with Zia to see how their restaurant is going. There are a number of different elements to it that have gotten great responses, and I want to continue to go back and check in on those. But I'm also in this season of trying to figure out where do I scale back? What do I cut out? What do I focus on? And what do I forget? And I don't know that I have the answers entirely to that. Another example of that would be with Patreon. So much of my Patreon goals when I got started were geared towards the kind of content that I was making at the time, and also some of my goals that I had for the upcoming year. So when I finally get back to my goal map here, one of the big goals that I had was to get to 40 countries by the end of that second season of vlogging. And so I had to push really hard for that. And the way that I ended up gearing a lot of my goals on Patreon was around travel and unlocking travel polls. But I'm also discovering that, like I've said on the channel before, I'm not a travel channel. I'm not a tourism channel necessarily, even though I do give a lot of information, particularly about Paris, to help tourists. That is engendered by a love of the city that I have to try and make sure that people who come to Paris have the best possible experience in visiting Paris. That's why my guide is written that way, the game is geared that way. These things are created to share the Paris that I love with you so that you'll have a good time. Not just to try and catch as many tourists into a tourism pot as possible and then squeeze them until money pops out. That's why I don't give tours, that's why I don't do tourism stuff. It's because I don't want to be a part of that crunch necessarily. I have a lot of friends who do great tourism things, who do give great tours, who are amazing gateways to the city that I'd love to introduce you to. It's just not stuff that I'm necessarily interested in myself. And similarly, I do enjoy travel a lot. I love visiting new places. I love having my horizons broadened. I love seeing new things and meeting new people. And travel in and of itself has been an instrumental part of my development as a person. Something that without the amount of travel that I've done and living abroad, I don't think that I wouldn't be the person that I am today. And I deeply, deeply, deeply cherish it. And I feel like I've gotten to a point where instead of pursuing it as something that I cherish, it's kind of become an end in itself. And I don't think travel for travel's sake, I have to think about this, like how exactly to phrase it, but I don't think travel for its own sake is necessarily particularly compelling. I think that travel has a lot of really good side effects, but most of the travel that I've done was in service of something else, whether it was volunteering on a hospital ship in West and Central Africa. I saw a lot of the world that way, or when I was, a lot of it had to do with like work or a project or a goal. And now that I'm in a place where it just kind of is its own thing, it actually makes me feel lonelier to travel by myself now than it used to. Traveling by myself used to be an empowering thing, whereas like you were figuring out a way to go, you're figuring out how to get somewhere in a country where you didn't know the transportation system and you didn't know the language and you really didn't know anything. And you get to a place where you feel confident going to any country in the world. I'm sure there are countries where I wouldn't feel comfortable, but you get to a place where you feel pretty confident in your skills to navigate wherever you are in the world. And there's a real sense of accomplishment and a real sense of personal development that comes from that. But then once you've crossed that line, especially when you're traveling alone and you don't have anyone to share it with, excluding you, of course, because it's really cool that I actually have the opportunity to share my travels through video, I find myself feeling more isolated and more alone when I travel because I'm having experiences that I want to be sharing, and because it's also taking away from the life that I want to be building here. It's taking away from the community elements that are developing around my life here in Paris. It's taking away from the time and concentration and focus that I could be dedicating toward. Like Richard and Kate are working on helping me to build a business right now, and I'm not even with them because I'm taking a day to recover from just a ridiculous weekend going to Bucharest, which was fun and I'm very grateful for. I don't ever want to sound like I'm not grateful, but like, is that a sacrifice that I'm willing to make? In certain circumstances, absolutely. I think that travel is still great, and that sacrificing a day or two to fight off jet lag or to recover from just 9 hours to take a 3-hour flight, basically, whatever it is, there's a cost to everything in life. And I'm in this position where I need to be reevaluating what that looks like. And like, we just put up the first worldwide travel poll on Patreon. It looks like it's going to be Tokyo at this point, which is really exciting because I've always wanted to go to Tokyo. I've always wanted to go to Japan. But in my mind, I'm trying to think like, okay, how do I make that a trip that's not just Jay goes to Japan to see it for the first time? Like, how do I go there and do something meaningful with it? How do I go there and share the experience, either with somebody who I love and want to go see Tokyo with, or, create something specific out of it. It can't just be I go and I wander around and I give my first impressions of the place, because I don't know. I don't know how to fully express this. I'm just at a place where I'm very happy with what I've built. The irony is that I was just sharing this with Jeff, the owner of Fringe, which is in the game. What I was saying was, the irony of it is that I've spent years of my life, a decade of my life, building travel into my life. I'm not the world's most accomplished traveler, but I ingrained that into my identity. It was one of the 3 things there when I was dating this woman back when I was with Mercy Ships, and I was probably the most in love with anybody I've ever been, and it was also a relationship that kind of destroyed me. In the midst of that, there were 3 things that I said were the most important to me, and that was writing, travel, and this person. And I did not rank that highly on her list. That's just what happens in life. But even then, writing and travel have been just things for me that have been so important and so vital to who I am. And I don't think that's going to change. I want to keep traveling, and I want to keep seeing the world. I want to continue to learn and understand and grow as much as I possibly can. And I think travel is an important component in that, but there has to be more to it than just getting on an airplane and seeing somewhere new and coming home. There has to be more to it than that. I don't think there's anything wrong with that, and especially I think when you're just starting out, like if you've never traveled before, that's where you have to start out. Just go, just go and experience a place. If you've never been to Paris before and you found me because you're really looking forward to your trip, you're gonna have a great time. Go and explore. Like there's a novelty and a newness and a freshness to everything when you do that. What I'm talking about is, after traveling the world for over a decade and going to over 40 countries and whatever else, at least for me, I feel like that's changed, and I'm not even really seeing where I'm at or appreciating it as fully as I could be, because my mind is still on things that, like, building what I want to build here rather than really fully immersed. And that's a bigger conversation to have about how the vlog has affected my mentality and how making a video every day for YouTube has really changed me. I think physiologically it's changed my brain in some ways. So I think there's a lot to unpack and a lot to think through. But all that to say that there are a lot of things that are on the table right now for me to like keep or throw, right? Like, do I keep or do I stop? YouTube's not gonna stop. I've talked about it before. I'm gonna change how I do it so that it's more sustainable and so that I can actually have a life. There's so many things that I would actually like to do and not always have at the back of my mind, like, yeah, but I have work to do. That has to change. But I love this and I don't want it to stop. So don't worry, YouTube's gonna continue. Patreon has obviously been life-changing for me, and I wanna find the right ways to make some tweaks to it, but there's no change there. And in fact, I wanna do some bigger things. I wanna do another round of postcards soon, just for the fun of it. There are a couple of things I'm gonna try and do that are just for fun because I really appreciate my patrons and I want them to know. I always want them to know how much I appreciate them. So that's something that is gonna be coming up here soon too. And writing, like I've said, is a core part of me, and I've really felt the lack of my writing time in my life and how much I want to be spending time just with that pure sense of creation that only comes from writing. I'm really trying to work on figuring out how do I get that into my life and not shoehorn it in. Like, I want to really actually cut space out of my life and put writing in it. So Those are really important things. And then kind of like outside of that, you can let me know if I forgot something, but almost everything else is up for grabs right now. And I want to try and take an honest look. And I tend to be a yes man. I try to do everything I possibly can because I feel like life's short, so I gotta do it all. And that's a disservice to myself and to you because I'm not focused on creating the best possible things I can create to share. And I'm not focused on becoming the best possible version of myself to support that and to just be. So I think that's basically it. I don't have any answers today. I don't have any big changes to announce necessarily. I think I'll do another deep dive into the game here just to make sure that everything is out there again. I want to refresh it. If you're coming to Paris, I'd really love it if you went to travelunlock.com and gave it a try and let me know what you thought about it. I'm still going to be doing the polls that I've got on Patreon the way that it is right now. I'm still going to be honoring all that. Like, this is the beginning of the conversation for that. So if you're a patron of mine, feel free. Maybe I'll make a post here soon and we can have a discussion about it. But it's also something that I got to be thinking about, okay, how do I align my Patreon to where I'm going and what my goals are so that everything really gels well and I'm bringing everyone along and they're not separating, they're not splitting apart. And there's a lot of really fun, potentially cool stuff on the horizon. There's a lot of fun stuff that I'm doing now. What are the things that I can do? What are the things that I should be doing? What are the things that I should be cutting? Those are questions that are going through my head. Included in that are, just all kinds of things. Anyways, that's it for today. It's been a long one. I hope you were missing a long sit down chat like this because that's what's in the cards for today. Yeah, that's it. I would appreciate it if you've ever thought of becoming a patron. It makes a huge difference. Literally, my life has changed, and the vlog has changed, and the potential for the future is changing. My goal is to grow it and grow it and grow it. I want it to be really big, but not so that I'm gonna stay in this tiny little apartment probably until I get kicked out. Basically, I want to be able to do things like rent an office where I can put the people that I'm working with to build bigger things. Like, I have really big dreams and ambitions. And so Patreon is not just about supporting this vlog. If you've gotten value out of it and that's all you really care about, that's great. Please do support the channel. But it's also building for the future and building for much bigger goals that I have that the vlog will be a part of. But I think we're gonna see the landscape really open up for possibilities. And so if you would like to be a part of that, and if you would like to support it directly, I would really greatly appreciate it, and it helps to keep me from being held to sponsors or other people with other interests, and really helps us to focus on building the coolest possible future that we can share imaginable. So that's really important. So all about the game, Patreon. These are the beginnings of conversations in some ways, so we'll revisit this, of course. And if you have any thoughts, please do leave them in the comments below. I'd love to read them. I've been reading comments and leaving shorter responses lately because I realized that I can read pretty much all the comments pretty easily. The most time-consuming thing is leaving really long responses. But I'm there and I'm reading them. So don't feel too discouraged if all you get is like a sunglass emoji with a thumbs up. But yeah, it's good to share my thoughts. Thank you. I feel better, honestly, just getting a chance to talk about it. The e-therapy of chatting with you is beneficial to me, so I appreciate it. And I will see you bright and early tomorrow morning for a day where I actually do go out into Paris in one form or another. I don't remember exactly what's going on tomorrow, but I'm sure it'll be a grand old day. I'll see you for that.